Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to this early morning or middle of the night bonus upload. Before we jump on into it, a couple quick links. As many of you may know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. These audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, because these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter, and they are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to this early morning or middle of the night bonus upload. Shall we? Today's first terrifying part of the upload. My encounter happened in the woods near my farm about 5 years ago. I was 17 years old, and our farm was about a mile from our nearest neighbor, 10 miles from the nearest town. My parents had taken a trip with my aunt to Vegas for the week and left me to run the place with the dogs. There had always been some weird stuff going on around the farm. Animals going missing, animals turning up, torn up, weird tracks, etc. Dad and Grandpa always told me it was coyotes, but after I'd gotten a bit older, they had told me that there had been sightings of bobcat and mountain lions back in the area for the first time in over 50 years. But those DNR boys would never admit to it, even with trail cam footage of them. I'd been taking nightly walks for a couple of years, but never further than the big lamplight would show. One night I start walking and go way away from the farm and the light. It was a full moon, and there was fresh snow on the ground. Everything was clear for miles, and you could see like it was almost daylight. And something possessed my dumbass to go out there in the middle of the winter by myself. My dogs would usually come with me on little walks like this, but they were nowhere to be found. I figured they were out hunting little rodents or something, so I left without them. I walked the path along our empty cornfields and down the path that led to our pasture. It was about a quarter of a mile down a hill walk. Down in this pasture, there's a canyon and a creek that runs through the whole thing. From our end of our property all the way to the next county. Inside of this, there's a pretty sizable forest, with huge old trees all the way down. It was one of those places that was perfect to grow up near. I spent a lot of time down there throughout my whole life, and never really had anything out of the ordinary happen. I had my headphones on, and I was listening to some metal, just enjoying how cool everything was, how lit up everything seemed. Even past the tree line. I figured, being just over 6 feet tall and overly cocky weightlifter, I didn't have anything to worry about out there, so my dumbass went down next to the creek bed, in the middle of the winter, alone and unarmed. Mistake number 1. I followed the creek for quite a ways until I ended up at a part of the bed where the banks and the walls of this little canyon were too angled to climb up, and there weren't any paths out. I stopped for a bit and watched the moon and the stars, just admiring it all. Don't think I'll ever forget how pretty everything was. About that time, I ended up turning my music off, just to take it all in. I guess it wasn't cold enough for the creek to freeze all the way, and every little sound out there in this place just echoed on the top of the little sounds of the running water. The whole place just made Every one of my senses feel exaggerated. I stood there for a minute or two when I started getting this horrible feeling in the pit of my gut, like the most terrible thing in the world was going to happen at any second. I looked around a bit. Didn't want to freak myself out over nothing, so I gave it a little bit of time. That was mistake number 2. I should have just walked out of there. Now at this point, I start hearing something moving through the snow and the brush on the other side of the creek. I'm pretty sure if it had been any other time or place, I wouldn't have even noticed it. It was so damn quiet beside the little trickle of water. I started to look around and spotted a little bit of brush moving a few yards from the other side of the creek bed. The only sounds were those exaggerated, amped-up steps, causing the thin coat of ice to crack and snap on the long grass near the shore. I won't lie, every horror story or terrible thing I had ever heard about ran through my head, and I ended up just getting stuck there, unable to move while this thing continued to creep out along the bank. I hadn't even seen it, and suddenly I just had the worst fear I had ever had in my life to this day. Finally, this thing came out, and by God, I almost pissed myself. This big black dog-looking thing came crawling out near the creek on all fours. It was so big, I don't know how in the hell it moved so quietly. It kept walking along in the open before it stuck its muzzle down into the creek and started drinking. I just stood there glued to the spot. The whole place seemed to get darker with every second. About this time, I felt the cold for the first time that night, while this chill ran down my spine. Stupid me shivered. Mistake number 3. I had big copper buttons on my coat, and a couple of them brushed against each other. It had been such an insignificant sound down there. It seemed like I had hit tin roof with a hammer. This thing perked its ears up and raised its head to look at me. God, its eyes, I had never seen anything that green before. We stared each other down for a few moments, and this thing growled at me. About this point, I finally snapped out of it and began backing away, trying to get back out of this boxed-in space and away from this thing. This thing started to bare its teeth and growl more aggressively, and then I shit you not, it stood up on its hind legs, raising its front paws up to its side. Only they weren't paws, they were like hands. I thought I was going crazy or something, but I kept slowly backing off, every step getting me a little closer to the path leading me out of the canyon and the creek. But even then, I still had a long way back to the house. This thing just kept watching me, like it wanted me to just back away and leave for the first few steps. Then it started walking along the other side of the creek, matching my pace, just slowly stalking me out. I'm shitting my pants and breathing heavily, but somehow managed not to lose my head and run. I think if I had done that, I wouldn't have made it out alive. Finally, I made it to the open area. Just had to get up this little hill and then make it across the pasture. Then it was only a quarter of a mile up another hill to home. I didn't turn my back on this thing and continued to back my way out and up the hill. This thing didn't seem to want to cross over the creek from the position it was at, but it kept walking. About the time I made it to the top and was looking down at this Dogman thing, it had made it to a more shallow spot at the creek bed and began to cross. At this point, I knew I had to pick up the pace. I finally turned and began to quickly walk to the pasture's gate as quickly as I could. I scrambled over the gate and looked back again. It was at the top on all fours again, still watching me with those eyes and teeth. All that was between me and this thing was a barbed wire fence, a panel gate, and 20 yards. That's when I heard the best sounds I had ever heard in my life. Loud padding coming across the field. All 3 of my dogs were coming full speed down the hill, raising hell. I looked back at this thing, turned, and stalked back down the smaller hill.
I figured I was in the clear and took off like a rocket. I ran a quarter of a mile in nearly 4 inches of snow in winter gear. I passed my dogs on the way up, and they didn't stop or turn to meet me. They just bolted down the way after this thing. What felt like an hour of running up this hill, I made it back to my house, and almost passed out on the floor. I locked the doors and ran to grab something to defend myself. I figured that my hunting knives weren't going to cut it, so I went to the gun safe. The only guns in the house are great-granddad's old double-barrel 20-gauge and a 22 and an old pump-action Remington 30-06 pump-action with a box of 40-year-old ammo. That had a horrible jamming problem. I grabbed the shotgun and loaded 2 shells before shoving a couple of fistfuls in my pocket. I just sat there in the kitchen with the death grip on this gun for hours, before I finally heard my dogs barking outside the house. I looked out the window on the porch and saw all 3 of them without a scratch. I dropped down onto my ass and cried like a child, not sure what to think. I didn't want to go out there again, and didn't until the next morning. I stumbled out the door with the gun and looked around. My boys came up, panting with their tails wagging, and I loved on them and petted them until my body was numb from the cold. I made sure they got some hot meat that night as a thank you. I've seen this thing a few more times than this, but this was the first time. The only people who know about this is a couple of my closest friends. Hell of a story. I don't live on that farm anymore at the moment, but that thing turned what was a little retreat into a nightmare. Today's second part of the upload. Matranovac's tree skinner. In Eastern and Central Europe, there is a well-known creature referred to as the European Yeti or the European Bigfoot, but around here it's known as the tree skinner or tree trembler. The cryptid is believed to be a hominid-type bipedal creature with a thin but muscular body, long limbs, shaggy and usually whitish-gray fur, and a monkey-like face. The skinny white creature is said to be 2 meters tall, mostly seen at dusk or midnight, sometimes around sunrise, but almost never at daytime. And when seen, it looks disoriented. Its howl, which has been heard on occasion, is said to sound like a thin scream of a woman turning into a death rattle. Eyewitnesses say that this hominid is possibly afraid of bright lights, as it tends to avoid flashlights. The first documented sighting was reported in the 80s, near Matranovac, which is a municipality in Nógrad County. At that time, the mines were still working, and the miners lived in accommodations near and in the forest. There were rumors between them about a creature they often saw at night. One of the miners states that he saw a gray chimpanzee-like creature on his roof, which then jumped off and ran into the woods. But that's not all. Some very interesting sightings were told by an old local man called Uncle John, who worked in the mines when he was younger. When his colleagues first told him stories about the tree skinner, he couldn't believe it, but that soon changed. One night, Uncle John was walking home from work. The tree skinner jumped down from a tree, landing in front of him while screaming. Uncle John then bashed the creature's shoulder with the dull half of his axe, causing the creature to run away. Years later, in the 90s, Uncle John encountered the tree skinner again, during the night while he was at home. His Carolyn bear dog started barking, and he immediately knew there was someone or something outside. But he was not suspecting it to be the tree skinner. Uncle John went out of his home and saw that his dog had attacked the creature and even managed to grab it by its hand. Uncle John ran to help the hominid and yelled for his dog to release the tree skinner, after which it ran away. As it turned out, the cryptid was actually trying to steal chickens from the chicken coop. Now, let's take a few of the most interesting modern sightings. 1998, a school group was taking a trip near Szorospatak when at night the children noticed something climbing through the fence. The next morning the teachers complained because they heard something walking outside at night and discovered that a few chairs were pushed away and some clothes were taken down. 2001, a small group went into the forest at night for a deer dare when they saw the tree skinner scraping itself against a tree and then quickly ran away. 2006, near Nerid, a group on a camping trip heard strange sounds at night and decided they needed to check it out. After they walked into the woods, they followed the sounds and saw the creature on top of a tree about 10 meters away from them. It jumped down and ran away. 2008, near Matranovac, a group of friends went out at night to a nearby monument. While there, they suddenly heard dogs start to bark, so they ran out towards the nearby field. When they arrived, they saw the tree skinner walking into the forest. According to the eyewitness, the creature had arms so long that they reached its knees. 2012. In August of 2012, a witness saw and photographed the creature in Zitskatskos, Hungary, while he was driving in daytime. The cryptid ran out onto the road and into the forest. It looked disoriented, mostly likely due to the sunlight, as their eyes are believed to be very sensitive to light. 2015, again the creature was seen and photographed in the daylight, this time by a couple who were walking their dog. The creature was trying to hide behind a small building near the woods, howled and ran off into the forest. 2019, in December, there was a report from a person who believes they witnessed the tree skinner in Matran Zanatir. There was a snowstorm in the day and the area was totally white. He went for a walk with his dog, a medium-sized mutt, in the forest, and when they finally decided to turn back, it was already dusk. Suddenly his dog seemed to be scared of something or someone and ran away. The witness, standing there helpless for a minute, noticed that there was something about 30 meters away walking through the snow on 4 legs. At first he thought it was someone trying to scare him, so he yelled at the creature. After doing so, it started to run on all 4s, but then stood up on 2 legs. That was the moment he realized that it was not someone, but rather a something. At that moment, his wife called him on the phone because their dog was barking in front of their door, and she thought something bad had happened to him. The creature, possibly scared by the sound, took off back into the woods, leaving the witness alone. Finally, the last thing is that while you might think this is a new cryptid, that's not the case. For centuries, people in Central and Eastern Europe have mentioned beings like this in their folklore. In Hungary, people in Nógrád County told their children about a creature living in the forests called Koko. In Romania, it is known as the shepherd girl. In Slavic mythology, the creature is called Drakovec. Another creature, which could possibly be the tree skinner in other myths, is known as the Lashy. So, as you can see, this is not a new cryptid, but rather a creature rumored to have been around for centuries. If you guys want to read this article or check out some of the pictures, the article was at www.pinebaronsinstitute.com.
And there you had it, folks. I hope you all enjoyed today's bonus as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is your support, after all, that helps this channel to continue to grow and go. and what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we deserve. Please, everyone, stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real. These events have happened. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions. Never stop searching for the truth. And God bless you all.